Today's episode is brought to you by Henshaw Trailer Sales of Richland, Iowa, the Packwood Locker, and Smithburg Auto of Fairfield, Iowa, as well as the Cedar Rapids Titans Arena football team that starts this Sunday at 5 p.m. as they take on the Midwest Raptors, and you can watch all their games, all their home games anyway, on Round Guy Radio. We've got Coach Akey of the Burlington Greyhounds, who have had a tremendous season. Welcome to the program, Coach.
Yeah, thanks for having me, like always.
Well, I've got a major announcement to let you in on here. We unanimously voted you the Coach of the Year for the SEC. You did a great job of coaching this year. In my my humble opinion, you had a great week, and you just did or a great season, particularly in the SEC. You just really had a good year. Tell us a little bit about maybe what is your record there in the SEC?
We are 6-2 right now. No, sorry, 7-2. Yeah, 7-2 right now, and we got our last game coming up against Washington. So it's a big one. We weren't able to get over the Keokuk hump this year, but if we can take care of business Friday, we will run the table in the rest of the games.
Yeah, well, and that is pretty impressive. Keokuk's a different beast there, but really nice season. What do you think your key to success, particularly in the SEC, was this year?
I was really worried coming into the season on what were we going to be? What were we about? And I've come to find out that the faster we play, the more chaotic, we make things. That really, really bodes well for us. And we kind of tapped into that for the majority of the season. And in particular, in the conference games, you tend to have a little more time to prepare for your conference games. And, we just really tried to latch on to that chaotic, fast-paced style, and it has served well for it.
Well, you certainly have had a pretty great season. Tell us a little bit about maybe who. Let's just talk overall. I know your last win there was against Fairfield. I haven't talked to you in a couple weeks, but you didn't play a whole lot of games in that amount of time. Tell us a little bit about who's maybe your scoring leaders, your rebound leaders, and guys that were big time contributors to your success this year.
Right now, we got two guys that kind of pace us with scoring, and that's Jet Morris, a little sophomore, and then his junior brother Kobe. Jet's averaging about 15 a game, and Kobe's pushing 11 points a game, and then our trusted senior Michael Kazabalos, he's there at 9 points a game. So those three are our main scorers. And do a lot of handling of the ball throughout the game, and they're just guys we really rely on to put up points for us.
Well, what about defensively? Anybody rebounding or stealing the ball or creating havoc out there?
Yeah, really, our three seniors are the keys to our defense. I mentioned Michael. He typically draws the best player on the other team, and has done a great job all year of at least slowing their best player down. And then you have CJ Chandler. He kind of plays our big. He's 6'4", so he's not one of those 6'8", 6'10" big guys you get to rely on, but he plays big. He jumps well. He can be an animal on the rebounds, and he is leading us in rebounding. And then kind of our utility defensive player is Keyshawn Wilden. So he's the third senior, and we can put him on somebody to lock them down. And he might be the best at it individually, but he really brings a different dynamic in his ability to run from sideline to sideline and go trap for us and take on different roles. So all three of those seniors are our defensive leaders, and they all kind of bring a different dynamic to what we're trying to do.
Well, you got another player on the all-freshman team, and this is the Tackett kid. I don't know what his first name is. Scotty Melvin is just enamored with him, and he was a unanimous choice to the all-freshman team. Tell us a little bit about that young man. Oh, well, you got a freshman there. Maybe I'm not saying his name right. Yeah, that's Fort Madison. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, and had enough. Enough
Tell you
coffee.
what, that kid's good though. That kid is going to be something special. He's a little guy, but he is all over the place. I'm really impressed with him.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you got a big week coming up with 3 games there, I think, still left on the regular season for you. Who do you got left on the docket there?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, we play Washington Friday. That'll be our senior night, and that's a big one, so we can run the table in the rest of the conference besides Keokuk, as I mentioned. And then Saturday, Waterloo East comes in, and they're going to be super athletic and play in a tough conference. And then on Monday, the finale is a big one against Oski, who, has been teetering in the top 10 rankings of Class 3A. And of course, they play in a super tough conference. So to end the season, it's a brutal 3 games in 4 days, but that's what we want as we head into the postseason.
Well, it sounds like it'll tighten you down. I know your postseason won't be announced until Monday, but do you have any idea of where you might land in that as far as a ranking or the seeding?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I was talking with Coach Rawson the other night about his thoughts, and he kind of thought that maybe we would be the 4 seed and maybe they'll be the 5 seed, and we'll match up for a third time this season, which would be interesting. It just kind of depends how they do it. If they put just 2 really good teams in our bracket, I could see us maybe being the 3 seed. But if they add a third solid record team, we indeed could be the 4 seed. But who knows? Maybe this game with Washington will be key into determining where we fall. So I really don't know, and I don't know if we'll go west, if they'll send us north, if we'll stay east along the river. You just never know.
Yeah, well, we won't know until Monday. We do know for the smaller schools, but we don't know for the bigger schools. Well, Coach, I don't know. Let me ask you about just some facets of the game, and you tell me whether you're happy with where you're at in it or not. How about free throw shooting? How you doing as a team free throw shooting?
We are a very poor free throw shooting team, and I mean we're at like 57%, which is pretty crazy to me when you think we're pretty guard heavy, and we shoot a lot in practice. And so I'm not quite sure what it is. I think we're in really good shape, so I don't think it's being tired there. I think we just need to really dial in and focus a little better. And although the season feels like it's winding down, our mentality is it's just getting started. This is the exciting part of the season. And so we're really going to hit the free throws hard here as we move forward.
Well, what about the inside game? Both, rebounding and scoring and second chance scoring and those types of inside game stuff. How you doing on that part of it?
Yeah, again, we really don't have a post presence. I mentioned C.J. Chandler at about 6'4", and Zach Hart is 6'3", and those 2 guys do some post play for us. But with our style of play, we really don't settle down in the block area too often, and really do traditional post player stuff. So offensively, from a post player angle, we really don't have a ton. We're starting to really figure out to drive and maybe dump it to our big guys down there a little more often, which is looking nice. But, we battle on the boards. We scrap. The teams with bigger players tend to out rebound us. And we're not so much totally worried about that rebounding number overall. We're more worried about second chance points for the other team. So, I know they kind of go hand in hand, but at the same time, we try to make sure we take away the rebounds at the rim, for the easy putbacks. And, and we're looking to attack the boards ourselves offensively a little more aggressively as we move forward.
What about 3-point shooting? How you doing in that aspect?
Not too bad. We're shooting right about 30%, and you'd really like to see that be 35. But, some of that comes from, again, the style of play we've adopted. We want to go, and we don't want to spend a whole lot of time milking the shot clock. And when you play like that, sometimes you tend to take some quicker shots, but we've been okay with living with that. Like I said, we're about 30%, but Kobe's up there at 37%, and actually CJ, our big guy, he doesn't shoot a lot of them, but we do give him the green light. He's at 43%, and then Jet and Michael are in that 30% range too. So although we'd like to see that number a little bit better, I have been encouraging our guys to let it fly if they feel that it's a good shot for them.
All right. Well, what about just passing the ball? How good are you at that?
Michael is a really good passer. I think he's up about 5 assists per game, and Jet and Kobe are sitting about 3 assists per game. So we move the ball pretty well. We've been seeing a lot of zone lately, which kind of takes away some of those easy fast break assists that people get. So we'd have to be a lot more diligent at making these good passes. But Michael's probably our most consistent, most unselfish player, and he's had games where he's been up, to almost 10 assists per game. So it's easy to say that when the people make their shots, that's helps the assister, but the assister's got to be able to read where guys are and catch them in a position to get a good look. And Michael, Jet, and Kobe do that pretty consistently.
All right, Coach. Well, seniors, you're going to have to say goodbye to some seniors here in a week or two. Who are all the seniors that you got on the team, and tell me a little bit about maybe something you're going to miss about them.
Yeah, so my three seniors are Michael Constavolos, CJ Chandler, and Keyshawn Wildland. And this is going to be a rather tough one for me. I haven't always worked in the schools. I had a separate job, and when I got my first job working in the Burlington school district at the middle school, these guys were seventh graders, and I was at that middle school for 2 years, so I had them in seventh and eighth, and then I switched to the high school. So I had these guys my whole professional career in the school, and so I guess a little more personal than just basketball, but from a basketball standpoint, these guys are going to be sorely missed, whether it's personality or just the effort that they have. And, these are the model players you want, where they just come to practice, they do well in the classroom, and other kids look up to them. And it's going to be bittersweet, when it's time for them to go. Cause obviously I'm proud to see them move on. They got lofty goals set for themselves that they'll no doubt achieve, but it's going to be hard to lose them from the program too.
Well,
So
you
again, that's Keyshawn, Michael, and CJ.
well, you got. I'm going to ask you the opposite end of that question, more about the future. Tell me about the JV players or some of the young players that we might be seeing in the future here.
Yeah, there's that's it feels pretty bright. Our leading scorer and what would arguably be considered our best player is just a sophomore in Jet. So he's coming back, and his brother Kobe it will be a senior next year. And then another guy getting quite a few minutes for us, Zach Hart. He's just a junior. So that's pretty positive. But Tavian Harris, DeAndre Taylor, Tavy Pearson, those guys get minutes for us, and they're just juniors. And then we have another sophomore who scored 10 points in the Fairfield game the other night, coming off the bench, and Liam Inger. And then not to forget Kevin Brown. He's a freshman that we have on varsity, and we've been giving him some more JV minutes to get him more game time, and he's an absolute freak. And then just trickling on down, there's a couple guys in the sophomore class, couple guys in the freshman class currently that we're really watching, and I know that there's some solid eighth graders that I'm kind of keeping my eye on too. So the future is bright, and I can't forget Big Debo Maxwell. He was a 2-year starter for us. This is his junior year, but he's out because he tore his ACL. So he's going to be back for us. And it's just they got to put the work in. I'm not sitting here fully confident because they have to put the work in. But if they do, they could be pretty special.
Well, we've been talking to Coach Akey, the Round Guy Radio SEC Coach of the Year. Thanks so much for taking a little time with us, Coach. Was there anything you want to talk about we didn't get a chance to talk about?
No, no. Like always, I appreciate you having and spreading the good word that is Burlington basketball, and we're getting excited to see how the tournament draws play out on Monday.
All right. Well, we'll have to get back a hold of you and talk to you about it when all that comes out. Thanks for taking some time with us, and congratulations on an outstanding year.
Yeah, thank you.